Hey guys, what is up? Roshi is here. Today we're taking a look at my Stonescar list. This is a Stonescar adaptation. It's more of a mid-range deck than an aggro deck, so that might be a breath of fresh air for some of you here. It's certainly fun to play, and it's an interesting list. My idea for this list was to counter the usual slog of aggro decks that come out to plague the first few days. And sometimes you'll see them all throughout the season too. So this deck definitely holds its own against those styles of decks. If you're seeing a lot of control decks and etc., maybe don't play this. But against aggro spam and etc., or if you have a lot of control, maybe you can tweak this list to do better against that. But for me, I played this on day 1 and day 2, and I did excellent with it. My win rate was really solid. I was beaten up on a lot of Mono Fire, Skycrag aggro, Stonescar aggro, and I was able to climb pretty effectively with this. I got about half of my climb knocked out with this deck. And let's just look at some of the card choices and see what's going on here. So, big sub-theme here is 5 attack matters. So we've got Spiritweaver giving Plunder and Lifesteal. Excellent inclusion here. Plunder's great, making sure we get to our 5 drops on time, and giving lifesteal is huge as well. It's not as important for us, but it definitely doubles our lifesteal in some cases, so we'll take it. Being a 1/3 means it blocks somewhat okay, so nothing too special, but it's a good consistency card. Syl Cabal Strongarm, pretty sweet in that it leaves a bat behind whenever it dies, so if you're ever able to get more than 1 on the board, it's pretty nutty. And if you're playing other 5 drops and they're dying and trading and etc., you're going to make quite a few bats. So when you're playing against some of these aggro decks that are looking to like kill everything you play and run you over, Syl will leave some little birdie boys behind, and they'll be able to start swinging the life total race slowly in your favor until our better threats and can eventually win us the game. Champion of Chaos, just one of the best 5 drops or 5 power dudes, I guess dudettes in the game. Overwhelm and Deadly is an insane combination, oftentimes meaning that you'll deal 1 damage to their minion and 4 damage to their face, and for just being a 3-drop and having all of these stats and abilities, it's a good way to... it's one of the ways our deck can get quite aggressive early on, so cool to have it. The mana base can definitely support it, and it's a good card. Jack! Well, he's one of the best fire removal spells in the game, so even though he doesn't have 5 power, it doesn't matter. Just killing 2 things, or killing something and going face, or whatever, the endless uses of Jack are great, and he is quite a good fit in here, being able to just 2-for-1 our opponent pretty handily a good amount of the time. Statuary Maiden, just a solid bomb. It also doubles up as we can use the cudgels later, just to like make something into a 5 attack, so for in our 5 attack matters deck. But just being a 4 power 2/4 with Deadly means it blocks any X3s quite handily, and if it stays on the board, it's going to get out of hand very quickly. It's pretty solid against stuff like Severin combo or whatever as well. Just randomly hosing those strategies, or like sack decks don't want to see this card in play. So for all the flexibility it provides, it's still just quite a respectable minion on top of it, and if you're able to play her in a removal spell, you're usually sitting in a pretty good spot, even if she dies or whatever, gets wrecked right away. Moving along, we're playing a Broker and Fire Etchings market here. I'll talk about the market later and why we want Broker and Etchings, but for now, let's move along. Fear Tracker, deal 3 damage to the enemy player, and you gain 3 life. Just, you know, beefy and annoying. If they kill it, you still have got a 0/3 blocker for the next turn, which is also pretty annoying. And between him and the Shade, you can actually swing the life total 6 points. So even if you don't get a single attack off with him, he's still gonna, if you use both of his abilities, that's a 6-point life swing. And if your opponent doesn't have ways to like give themselves Aegis or gain life, oftentimes just while we're in the act of playing out our threats and trading with our opponent's stuff, we're playing Jack and just like dealing 4 damage randomly. We're playing Fear Trackers, 3 damage to the face. Maybe our opponents are damaging themselves with Blazing Salvos. So I had a few games where I hadn't attacked yet and my opponent's at like 12. And then eventually I get a board and now all of a sudden I'm threatening lethal with every attack. So it's pretty sweet. Moving along, I added a few. In the videos, you'll see I tested some things, but I added a few one-ofs, just some spicy cards, just to see how they'd play. They all were fine. I found Vicious Highwaymen to be quite solid, but these are kind of... Fear Tracker is one of the better 5-drops, and these are all good options, and they're good for different reasons. If you're playing against like a go-wide deck, Scrap Tank's super solid, and can get out of hand very quickly if not dealt with. So it's kind of cool for that. But it doesn't have charge, and it doesn't have any way to... leaving the 2 Grenadines can be kind of mediocre if it just dies. So that's why it's just a 1-drop, and it potentially could be cut for maybe Vicious Highwayman or something else if you want. Umbran Reaper, this card's great. I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but this deck is built around pull into nightmares. Our goal here is to play a unit with cost 5 or less from our Void, and it gets +1/+1, and in our deck it gets double damage. So giving Fear Tracker double damage, giving Umbran Reaper double damage, giving Vicious Highwayman double damage, or even the Scrap Tank, these are insane threats, and it's not really easy for your opponents to deal with because it's going to come down and get that life gain immediately on the Fear Tracker, which is why we're playing 4 of this one. But Umbran Reaper, actually, if you play Umbran Reaper with Pull into Nightmares and attack them once and then it dies, they're basically dead. So that's one of the cool things about Umbran Reaper. You can annihilate it yourself in a pinch against like Turn to Seed and stuff. And yeah, just... that's kind of our goal here, is to give double damage. It will double the damage of the spell, or the Entomb effect, and it doubles the damage of the Fear Tracker effect. It does not double the healing, so you'll still, if you're dealing 6 damage, you'll still only gain 3 life. Kinda sucks, but it is what it is. And then Vicious Highwayman, dealing 1 damage and getting lifesteal at quick draw is pretty cool. If this ever has double damage, it's basically going to kill anything possible with... that quick draw should just murder anything, and big lifesteal swings coming from this card. And if you have removal to follow it up, some big consecutive swings as well. Potentially could be playing more of these just with how well it does against aggro. Against control, maybe you want more Umbran Reapers or something else. Fire Etchings, already talked about this, but this just gives us sigils. We can use them for Jack or just some early game, make sure we hit our power drops. Or Torch, just one of the best removal spells in the format, and especially against the slog of aggro you'll come against, it's very efficient. So happy to have 4 Torch here. 4 Annihilate, kind of the same boat, one of the more efficient removal spells. Just use it to clear the way or protect yourself long enough for our threats to take over the game. 4 Quarry, this has some synergy along with Jack, and that we can discard some of our 5-drops and then pull into Nightmares them later. So that can be quite sweet if we're able to pull that off. If not, no big deal. It only technically costs you 1 card, 1 power, assuming you hit an actual spell or minion or creature with it. So it's pretty good for churning through your deck. In our slower deck, spending 2 power to Quarry is fine. We're going to have some dead turns while we're just waiting to set up what we can. And if you're able to discard something and combo it with pull, it's really good. For the power base, playing a good bit of sigils for Jack, and then we've got Crest, Seat, Banner, and Insignia. We need to play as much of these as we can so that we have power for Champion of Chaos consistently, and also being able to play Syl, Cabal, Strongarm at a reasonable time, while still supporting Fire Etchings and Jack. So that's kind of what's going on with the power base and why it might look weird. For the market, Flame Blast, Open Contract, Buton, Menace, and Ghodan. Ghodan's super awesome on the broker. So if you broker a Ghodan, you're just going to get a lot of charge off the top of your deck, flipping into play, and if it's not dealt with immediately, hopefully one of the 20 will stick around, and you're able to start flipping minions off the top of your deck. More damage, more fun, hooray. Also, a very fun Pull into Nightmares target. Our next card is also a very fun Pull into Nightmares target, and actually, it gains health equal to the damage dealt, unlike Fear Tracker. So if you give this double damage with Pull, and then play it, you'll deal double the damage and gain double the life, which is sweet. Brokering Silverblade Menace and then playing 1 or 2 in one turn is our main way of beating these turbo control decks. It can be beneficial to sandbag these till you can play 2 in one turn, or wait until you have one of these and annihilate up so that you can kill it in response to a turn to seed. Oftentimes control decks just complete fold to this card and a few of them being played, so definitely keep that in mind, that one of your best and really only path to victory, because it can be quite hard to punch through their removal, is just cheesing them out with Silverblade Menace. So make sure you're giving yourself the best possible chance for that sweet queso. Moving along, we've got Buton. Can be fetched with Fire Etchings, which is cool. And that's one of the more often things. This isn't really one of the better broker targets. You can do it though if you want to. But this is cool to grab with Fire Etchings, hopefully clearing a blocker and hitting your opponent real hard with it. It's kind of his job. Also, not the worst Pull into Nightmares target, but we can do better. And then Open Contract is just a cheap removal spell, can grab it with Etchings, can broker it against aggro decks, and just kind of fills that role. And then Flame Blast is just an alternate thing we can grab with Fire Etchings to close out games. So that's the list. Pretty aggressive for a mid-range deck, and you'll definitely have games where you're able to just kind of curve out and steal the win. But oftentimes it comes down to a little bit of a slogfest and a board stall, where we'll eventually come over the top with our double damage dealers. So, pretty cool list. Let me know what you think. The gameplay link will be down below in the comments. Thank you guys for watching.